Hello everyone, my name is Chris McIntosh. I help teach the capstone courses. Today we're talking about finding literature related to the problem. In this video, we'll talk about how to find relevant literature. Last time we looked at some things to think about when developing a problem statement about the local problem. Now it's time to think and write about the problem in more general terms. Is this a problem in other places, or have a project like yours been done in other places? How are concepts related to your problem defined in the scholarly literature? Who is affected by this problem more broadly? What people and systems? When is it a problem? Have any trends or patterns been identified? Why does it matter? Is there an existing standard or protocol that is not being met or followed? What is the standard? How is it defined? And who publishes and maintains the standard? How does it affect the patients or systems? What will happen if this problem is not addressed? Information in this section should expand on what is written in the problem description section and be supported by evidence. You should use proper APA citations and references, so you need to keep track of the literature you find. There are more resources for searching for scholarly and other literature available than ever before. This is not a comprehensive list. Since this presentation is focused on a capstone project and manuscript for a master's degree, I would prioritize scholarly sources over popular literature. I'll divide these into more traditional resources and AI-powered resources. Traditional resources include PubMed, Google Scholar, and scholarly databases available at Eccles Health Sciences Library. I maintain a list of AI resources for searching for and understanding academic literature in the AI-powered options link above. You can Google for resources about how to use those new tools. That reminds me that regular search engines like Google and Bing can help you find relevant literature, but I would prioritize scholarly sources over popular ones. Once you have an idea of what to search for and where to search, you should be taking notes. You should keep note of what databases you search and the search terms. You should keep track of the articles or other literature you intend to read. You should record the sections or passages relevant to your project and paper. You should jot down ideas of what would be good to write. You can use any tool you like to keep notes. I suggest being consistent in where you keep notes. Scattered notes are not very helpful when you can't find something. Excel is an excellent option because it's sortable, filterable, and searchable. OneNote is another decent option because it also is searchable. You've been given some sample tools in Canvas suitable for keeping notes. We've provided some example sheets in Canvas to help you keep notes about your literature. But I strongly recommend you pay special attention to the reference column. Take the time to find or create the proper APA references when you first find an article you want to consider using in your proposal on paper. Sometimes it's really hard to find an article again if you didn't keep good notes. Don't waste time recording articles in your list that don't look promising. I usually skim the abstract, and if that looks promising, I skim the paper. If I don't see something that catches my eye for what I need, I move on. This process takes some practice. Again, record the proper APA reference while you're searching. It will save you time in the long run, I promise. If this page consists of nothing but APA references in the reference column, that's okay. The main point is to start compiling the reference list. So how do you find the reference? Clicking the cite link in Google Scholar brings up citations and links to download for Citation Manager software. Warning, Google Scholar citations do not always follow correct APA format. You need to double check them. Finding the same article in PubMed and clicking the cite link there is often the gold standard. You'll see the same reference in PubMed includes the Digital Object Identifier, or DOI. You can always create the reference yourself. If you don't have your APA 7 manual with you, you can look up a lot of examples on the APA Style blog. I know I can hear the horrified gasps, but creating your own reference is not that hard once you've done a couple. Keeping notes about the sections of articles you feel are most relevant to your paper can help make the writing process easier. When you find something in a literature source that looks relevant to your paper, I suggest you take note of it. Add the citation in the citation column, just like you would cite in a paper. That will let you find the correct reference in the literature sheet. You will now have the correct reference in citation format for when you write your paper. Record the page number of the information you think is relevant. It's easier and faster to look up again if needed. Copy the short passage of text you think is relevant and paste it into the text column. It's nice to see what you thought was interesting without having to go look it up again in the article. Record your thoughts in the notes column. If you're going to paraphrase it in your proposal or paper, write the paraphrase right there. Make yourself a note of why you thought this was interesting and how it might be used in your paper. Here's a pro tip. If you think of something that may be useful for your paper, even if it's not related to this source, jot it down in the notes section in a new row. Keeping track of these thoughts when you have them will make writing easier later. It's easy to forget some good ideas if you don't write them down. Add what section you're working on in the paper section column. Hint, I've created the proposal sections to match the manuscript template. Sorry, that was from an older version of this video. When it comes time to write your paper, you'll be able to sort these notes and group them into the appropriate sections quickly. You don't have to use this method. Feel free to invent your own. This is just what I settled on after a lot of trial and error. Your assignment is to write the available knowledge section about your problem. You should probably be citing about 10 sources in this first assignment and include the references in the reference section. Information in this section should expand on what is written in the problem description section and be supported by evidence. Use proper APA citations and references. It is suggested you gather most, if not all, of your evidence before you try writing this text of this section. You may need to update this section as you continue to work on your paper. Pre-writing for this section will consist of gathering the information needed to write an informative and complete description of the literature related to the problem. Work on a blank page and write a sentence about each piece of information. Organize your information in a logical sequence before trying to write your paragraphs. Selecting a suitable organizational structure before trying to write will make writing easier. Is there a chronological order to the information? Is there some sort of spatial way important information relevant to the study is organized? Is some information about the problem more important? Is there a cause and effect component to the problem? Should things be logically presented in themes? There are many potential ways to organize and present information. Following a similar organizational structure that you used in the problem description section may not be a bad idea. Using a similar organization structure in multiple parts of your paper is called parallel construction, and it helps the reader understand and remember information more effectively. Here's a list of questions related to your problem we talked about previously in the presentation. If I were looking for literature related to my problem, I start by getting relevant search terms from ChatGPT. You can see the prompt there. Next, I would go to a literature search like elicit.org and ask each of the questions in your list. I would skim the list of references that were returned to see what literature best answered each question and take note of it as we previously discussed. If relevant references are more than 5 years old, I would enter those references into a literature mapping resource like litmaps.com to see if I could find more recent literature that is relevant and take note of that. Add the articles that seem most relevant to your Zotero collection or other reference manager. A basic summary of this Lit Search workflow can be seen on my Lit Search AI Resources GitHub page. The link is provided above. Once I gathered the information I needed, I would go through the rest of the pre-writing process we already discussed. Writing for this section will consist of assembling the information you gathered and organized during pre-writing into cohesive paragraphs. Eventually, I will be looking for well-formed paragraphs with topic sentences and supporting statements. AI prompts to help turn sentences into a paragraph and craft topic sentences are available on my GitHub page at the link above. You're not required to use these tools, but they may help make the process a bit easier and produce a more polished finished product. Here's some rewriting or editing tips. Substantive editing deals with the text as a whole and basic content. Copy editing deals with correcting spelling and grammar problems. Students are required to use Grammarly. ChatGPT is also a useful editing tool. You can ask ChatGPT to improve individual sentences or paragraphs, prompts to evaluate the comprehensiveness of content coverage have been written for each section of your manuscript. You should evaluate your text using the prompt at the link provided above before submitting your draft. This is a substantive pre-edit of your work. Address all red highlights in Grammarly. Red highlights point out spelling, punctuation, and grammar problems. Address most blue highlights in Grammarly. Blue highlights in Grammarly highlight suggestions for improving clarity and conciseness in your writing. With the widespread availability and easy access to so many writing tools, you should never submit work that contains spelling and grammar errors. Double-checking your work before submitting drafts is your responsibility. Contact your professor if you need help learning how to use these tools. It goes without saying that you alone are responsible for the content of your own paper. Never use anything without reviewing it first. There is a difference between getting help revising content you create and having another source create content for you. Professional editing services can cost between $50 to $100 per hour on average. It can save you time and money to use appropriate tools available to you. Reverse outlining is a good way to check paragraph cohesiveness. If you organize your text during the pre-writing step, this check will go quickly. Highlight your topic sentences with light gray. Topic sentences should be the first sentence or two of a paragraph. Then review each supporting sentence in the paragraph and assess how strongly each sentence relates to the topic sentences. Does each sentence closely relate to the topic sentence? Do any sentences deviate from the main topic of the paragraph? If you find a paragraph has more than one main central topic, you should consider creating new paragraphs so each paragraph has only one central topic. You need to use proper APA 7 citation and reference formatting. Nice examples for different reference types can be found on the APA style blog. In-text citations should use either the author name, year in parentheses format, or the author last name, year, all of that in parentheses format. ChatGPT did a respectable job of checking the formatting of a reference list. I'm providing the prompt I used. See the link in the prompt above. It had some mistakes for website references, but overall it caught a lot of mistakes. You still need to manually check each of your references for correct formatting. This section focuses on published literature relevant to the local problem. There are a number of things you should avoid in this section. Avoid citing non-scholarly sources as much as possible. Avoid citing sources you have not personally verified that they actually exist. This is the section where you should discuss general causes, trends, and standards published in scholarly literature. Pick an organizational structure for the information you present. Don't present a random collection of sentences. Avoid creating paragraphs that are overly long or overly short. Paragraphs should usually have around 3 to 7 sentences. It's better to have more than 2 paragraphs than to have paragraphs that contain multiple topics that aren't clearly related. That's all we'll do in this video. There is more to come.